OTP for a Low Life Toastmaster on Totem Pole. Good to be here.
Well, I must say, Glenn, I love your 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 title. And so welcome to our meeting this morning from
Thank you.
Lockport, New York. And let me see also, we have, and I thought I saw another guest that jumped on with us. Nando, are you able to say hello this morning?
Good morning.
Nando, how's the Pizzelle business working?
Well, God bless the people have embraced it, so I keep praying, sir.
Well, we're glad to have you this morning, and welcome to our meeting.
Thank you so much.
Without further ado, it gives me a great pleasure this morning to turn over the meeting to our Toastmaster of the day. Please welcome Dr. Gerald Stevens.
Hey, thank you. I'm going to try to share a screen here. I'll start off the meeting and hope this will work. The host disabled screen sharing. Can you enable, possibly? Let's try it again. Larry?
You should be able to share.
Ah, there it is. Great. Okay. Okay, so Spring has Sprung is the theme. Can you see this?
Yes, we can.
Yay. Okay, so let's start the slideshow. Spring has sprung. So to me, when springtime occurs, certainly get a lot of rain and the leaves and everything start growing, flowers and whatnot. So this is a picture of Yosemite Falls. In Yosemite, past a certain time of the year, you don't even see a waterfall. So I actually hiked up there back in the day, and my friend Damon, crazy friend that I have, he actually stuck his foot in that precipice going over the falls. So that kind of reminds me a little bit of spring. So we're going to talk a little bit about gardens and different things in spring that can kind of happen here. And I have different pictures of the evolution of my garden. I've worked many, many hours on it. This is the back garden we have here with Venus de Milo and a little bit of Michelangelo going on, some lamb's ears and some hostas. This is the left side garden. And this is just something I worked on with different types of mulch to kind of a little color palette there, and peonies and all different kind of flowers, really. You had Edelweiss as well was in there from The Sound of Music, believe it or not. We actually have some Edelweiss in there. This is my daughter, Amber. She was probably 6 or 7 at the time. And this kind of came with the house, clematis that was growing up the little light pole here. So she's kind of hiding there. So she's now 20 years old, believe it or not. Daffodils remind me of spring. So when these things first come out, we got a bunch of them in our front yard there. So that'll work, but we'll try it. And this is actually proof of me working on the yard. So it's we had this arch back in the day, and we putting in a stone path, and we had this stump here that came with the yard, and you'll see there's no flowers in front of it. But in a minute, you'll see some more. We put these in here, some hostas and some dianthus, so some pretty flowers in the evolution of our yard here on the right side. From above, we can see it's this kind of the stump that had nothing there. We created a stream that went like a corkscrew around the yard. So that was quite a project, and put in some stones. This is what it eventually became, with all these lamb's ears and flowers and a little fish fountain, and you can see some columns in the back and even a gnome over there, and a yucca plant that was blooming right in the middle there. So quite a bit of a vibrant garden. I do a lot of this in my backyard, some smoking meat and some barbecue. So that's good times for me. I enjoy that a lot. And we do some of this. Hopefully some of you guys have these kind of things, some bonfires that go on. So we do this quite a bit. I did one the other day. Hopefully we'll be able to do one this weekend. And this is a good time of year, the spring, to get out and do some fishing. We did this with my grandson, not recently, but last year out at Bonds Lake. So beautiful time to enjoy the self-distancing, of course, everything. Okay, that is my introductory PowerPoint. So just a few things that we can do now that spring has sprung. And what we'll do now is introduce the job holders. So our first job holder is Jen Zappa. Do you have a word of the day for us, Jen?
I do. Your word of the day today, because it is spring and we are moving toward increased daytime hours, is diurnal. Diurnal means of or during the day or daily. So for example, when I was in the Galapagos, I happened to see a diurnal owl as opposed to a nocturnal owl, which are more common here in North America. Thank you. And I will put that in the chat.
Thank you. Try to use the word diurnal as much as you can throughout this day, diurnal. Our grammarian, Tracy Farrell, are you out there?
I am. My job today is to listen to everybody's grammar and report back at the end of the meeting of everything that I heard.
All right, thank you, Tracy. Larry Eggert is our quote master of the day. Larry Eggert, do you have a quote for us?
I do. Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Seeing as we're talking about spring and with the more daylight, more diurnal, I have 3 quotes. 2 are inspirational. 1 I think is from my favorite quote person. The first one is, spring will come and so will happiness. So hold on, life will get warmer. That's Anita Krizan. Marty Rubin says, the deep roots never doubt spring will come. And the last one, my favorite comedian, Robin Williams, spring is nature's way of saying, let's party. Mr. Toastmaster.
Very nice. There'll definitely be a lot of that coming up, I think, as the restrictions are lifted. Mark Campos, do you have a joke for the day for us?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guests. Good morning. I am off today. I am ready to do some yard work. I want to thank you, Gerald, for making me feel completely inadequate with the pictures of your garden. For me, just putting down mulch is akin to splitting an atom. It's really difficult work for me. I've got my Met hat on today, which there's probably represents quite a few jokes right there as jester, including the fact we've never been undefeated on May 21st before. But here goes. A hungry lion was roaming through the jungle looking for something to eat. He came across 2 men. One was sitting under a tree and reading a book, and the other was typing away on his typewriter. The lion quickly pounced on the man reading the book and devoured him. Even the king of the jungle knows that Reader's Digest and writer's cramp. Mr. Toastmaster.
Very nice. Our timer, Jackie Kenney, can you tell us the timing parameters of our meeting today?
Do this. Okay, I will be happy to. I will be timing all of the speaking portions. Table topics is 1.5 to 2 minutes at AM Lockport. So you will see green at 1.5 and yellow at 1:45 and red at 2. Hopefully everyone will make time. Speeches will be timed according to the speech project, usually 5 to 7 minutes. And our evaluators will be timed from 2 to 3 minutes when they speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, by the way, for everybody stepping up for the vacant roles. We even had people competing for certain roles, so that was pretty cool to see. Our Jester Master, Sylvia Baptiste, stepped in. What are you doing today, Sylvia?
Hi, morning, everyone. This is going to be a challenge. I haven't been able to attend a lot of the meetings of Toastmasters, but I'll tell you right now what I notice, how many times do we touch our face? Everybody's been going, I've been doing this. I use this as my mirror now. So that is what I'm going to be watching for. Let's see what we could do. Not touch our face and hair. Thank you.
It does happen a lot. Our volunteer quizmaster, Ryan Flore. What are you doing today as the quizmaster, Ryan?
I don't
believe we have Ryan in the house yet.
Oh, no, Ryan. Is Alexis in the house? She was also going to step up as quizmaster. Do you want to be quizmaster, Alexis?
Sure, I can do that.
All right, thank you. Second week in a row.
Done.
What are you going to do as quizmaster, Alexis?
Yeah. I am going to ask 5 or 6 questions based on what people are speaking about and see who's paying attention.
All right, thank you, Alexis. And last but certainly not least, the general evaluator, Larry McKenzie. What is your role today?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Today, as a general evaluator, my role is to evaluate the general tone of our meeting and also to evaluate our evaluators today. And I will answer my report when I am called upon later in the meeting.
Thank you, Larry. At this point, I would like to roll out some table topics. I'm going to leave this meeting and come back with my phone so that way you can see me. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to Steve to start table topics. Are you ready, Steve?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
All right. This is very interesting because I don't know what I'm doing on this thing. So I don't know who's out there to choose from for this. Who is available for table topics this morning? Somebody help me here.
I am. This is Thomas.
Dave's available.
Dave Licata, Thomas Houdwin.
Okay.
Ishmael is available. Our guest, Glenn, is available.
Okay.
And volunteering, I saw his hand in the air.
Charlie Pekin.
And Charlie and Tom Moran are also available. So.
And even Margo.
And even Margo. Go for it, Steve.
Oh.
Margo has a job this morning.
Margo's the evaluator.
Ah, okay. So I can't use Margo. Okay. Well, Dave, you said you were available.
Anyway.
Dave, you said you were available. I've been hanging out at the house like a lot of us have. And last night, for the first time, I got my telescope out because our whole astronomy program has been mothballed until this is over. And I discovered that everything was non-functional in the telescope. I had to change batteries and everything. Some batteries were corroded. So I had a lot of fun trying to make things work. What if you tried to do after not being able to do it that you're having trouble with trying to do?
And don't forget to use the word of the day.
Yeah, diurnal. That doesn't apply to astronomy. That's not diurnal.
Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. During this pandemic, there's been a tremendous opportunity to get things done, both nocturnal and diurnal. But I've been so upset by this because, you know, I'm old and cranky, and I've spent a tremendous amount of time pouting, which is rather embarrassing. So I didn't get a lot done. We've corrected a few things. I actually sorted out my tools the other day. I'm proud of that. I had hopes of, you know, maybe learning a few more Italian words. That didn't come to any fruition. But yesterday, to tie in with today's theme, spring did break open because I joined fellow Toastmaster Phil Russell for golf. And then to my abject horror, I found out that during this long stretch of nothing to do, my clubs were still dirty from last November. So I said, gee, I hope my very serious golfing buddies don't see me scrubbing away and brushing away with my my little tiny metal brush to clean it off. But today we have about 4 years ago, Mrs. Licata announced that she wanted a toy. I like to get her a toy every Christmas, so I went and popped for a drone. And let's just say the drone was a little bit south of $300. It has never flown. It's been sitting in the room for 4 years. So that's today's project. We're going to get the drone up on the table. I'm going to call in the Rice brothers, and we're going to get that baby in the air. Thank you so much, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. Well, whoops, I'm throwing things around here. Tom Moran.
Yes.
On the other side of the coin, what are you doing that you would normally do this year that this really hasn't affected? In my case, it's gardening. We're out there doing all our usual gardening. She's planting her flowers. I'm working in a vegetable garden. So what are you doing that really hasn't been affected by this?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I have been doing pretty much a lot of things that actually I enjoy doing. I've been filling in the time in the kitchen. I've been watching several cooking shows, and I've been working diligently in the kitchen. That's probably where I'm most comfortable at this time of year before spring actually opens up the outside, and I can do things. In the kitchen, though, it's things that I do during the day. They're diurnal. And what I do is I get up like early in the morning, and I get the flour out, I get the salt out, I get a nice cup of lukewarm water. That's between 110 and 115 degrees. And I open a package of yeast and put that in the water. And then I dump all this into my mixer. I have one of those big mixers that sits on the counter that has a bowl that you twist on and off, and it has what's called a dough hook for it. So I take and do that. Let me see, I'm going to switch over here so I can see the camera where Jackie is. So I make a loaf of bread probably a couple of times a week, and I've gotten quite good at it. I get a nice rise out of it. It takes a while, but most of the time it takes to bake bread is you're waiting for it to rise and you're waiting for it to bake. But we have not suffered any of our diets because of this pandemic. We've been eating a lot of bread, and actually Jackie, my wife, she's likes bread, let me say. I made a loaf of bread last week, and I put it on the counter, and I went to do some other things in the basement, and I came up, and the loaf of bread was probably half gone. And Jackie tells me there's nothing like a nice slice of warm bread out of the oven. And I agree with her. So I've gotten quite proficient in the baking field these days. So thank you for that question. I enjoyed just thinking about it and just kind of sharing with everybody. So if you need any special hints on that, let me know. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. I want to make mention, I touched on astronomy. For anyone that's interested, if you go outside tonight, right after the sun sets, it starts getting dark, look off to the west, you'll see a very bright object. That's Venus. And if you look closer, and you may need binoculars to find it, just below Venus, be a little red dot. That's Mercury. And they're making their closest approach tonight that we can see from here. And that anybody can go out and do. Even though my officially programs are not happening, but anybody can go out and enjoy that show tonight. I'm going to be out looking at it. Now, finally, Mookleys, you said you were available. I'll give you a choice. Either question you wish. What's going fine? What has been totally disrupted? Your choice. Which one you want to talk about?
Can I direct to Ishmael because she was the one who I volunteered for.
Oh, you volunteer? Okay, sure. Ishmael, that's fine.
Ishmael, go ahead.
Okay. Your choice.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I'm giving you your choice. I had two questions.
Oh, my choice.
That's been totally messed up, or what are you doing that's just fine and dandy? Your choice.
Oh, between those two. All right.
Questions that I've asked.
For me, I would go with what is totally the same. I would like to say that for me, everything is almost exactly the same.
Good.
I did lose my one part-time job, which was sort of fine because with my children being home all the time, I really kind of needed to be home more anyway. So that really worked out. And I wasn't working a whole ton of hours. It wasn't even 10. So when I lost it, it wasn't like a huge loss. I still worked the same hours at my regular job. I've still been able to focus working on my brand. The only thing that has really came up that has been different was my kid's dad got into an accident on April 13th and he suffered a traumatic brain injury. And because of COVID, no one's been able to go visit him at the hospital and he was transferred to rehab where he still is. So that was affected. But as far as my daily life goes, everything is really just the same. I still run to the store if I'm going to work or if I'm coming home from work. It seems like everyone else is still running to the store whenever they have something that they need. Yeah, I can't think of too many things that have really been different because of, the pandemic. I'm looking for Jackie, but I can't find her. I'm just gonna keep going. Another great thing another great thing that's happened is I have, like I said, I've been able to focus a lot more on building my brand. So that is something that I had planned on doing, and I'm really excited that I was able to just keep on going and keep on trucking. And I feel like that has a lot to do with my mindset and all the preparation I've done thus far. Thank you.
Steve, I believe we have a guest that's joined us who also would like to volunteer.
Yes, I've been given a green light to do another table topic, so I'd like to ask our guest, Glenn, to answer his choice of those two questions. What hasn't changed? What has changed? Your choice.
What hasn't changed is I still work from home since I telework. However, what has been disrupted because of this pandemic farce is the inability to do my officiating because the fast pitch softball season was canceled. And one of the things, I have a good friend that's a doctor, and I thought it was rather interesting when he said to me, he says, man, you can tell times have changed as far as overreaction because how people have short-term memories of 1969 with the Hong Kong flu, where we had 1 million people who died and 100,000 Americans who died, although we're quite there with the pandemic with 94,000. However, one of the things is, it's, as he said, it's kind of interesting how we're practicing social distance, yet back in the year of the Hong Kong flu of 1969, we had the great rock concert Woodstock, and social distancing was not practiced back then. So it's kind of interesting how we have short-term memories. I think one of my biggest issues with how life has been disrupted to me personally is the reaction as far as the Orwellian news media that exists today, because they spread the misnomer that viruses kill people, which is a flat-out lie. Now, viruses will harm you. However, there's what's called the cytokine storm, which is an overreaction to when you're immune depressed, that not only does it attack the virus, it attacks the various cells, tissues, and organs of your body. And very seldom do I hear on the news as far as how we need to be practicing boosting and elevating our immune health. And I find that very distracting. We need our vitamin A's, our vitamin B's, our vitamin C's, and vitamin D's. That was proven with a lady in Korea at the age of 103. that had the COVID-19 coronavirus, and she survived. She has an excellent immune system, as opposed to the young adults that were actually afflicted in Italy, where now they have damaged hearts for the rest of their lives. It's very frightening that we don't talk about how to protect ourselves to keep that overaction from happening. So that's how my life has been disrupted. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. Well, can we get a timer's report?
Yes, I found Dave came in at 1:57. Tom at 2 minutes and 35 seconds. He's a little out of practice, I guess. Ishmael at 2 minutes and 3 seconds, and Glenn at 2 minutes and 17 seconds. So Dave and Ishmael are the only ones who qualify according to time.
Okay. Now, what about a word master's report?
Okay, guys, in order for a word to tang, it has to first get started. And I think Dave is the only person. No, that's not actually true. Steve, you did use it after I said so. But none of our table topics contestants besides Dave used it. And no one has used it without me.
David used it. David used it, and so did Tom.
Tom used it?
So
Yep.
yes.
Okay. All right. Well, apparently I need to listen better. Thanks, guys.
I didn't hear both of them, so maybe it was too silent. I'm not sure.
Well, I'll turn it back over to our Toastmaster now. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I guess this is the diurnal changes in the springtime that has kind of messed us all up a little bit. I know some people have trouble sleeping when a change of season occurs, and some people take melatonin, and that can help. So you could try that. Speaking of different things you can take to boost different things in the old body. So I think Larry's going to send around a poll here for voting. Unless it's just Dave, then we won't do it.
I do believe it was, but you know what? We are going to use the poll just for a little practice this morning. So here we go.
Nice. So some other things you can do in the spring. The other day we went out for a walk. So you can definitely still do that. I see someone walking down the sidewalk right now, pretty close to me. And we went out to right off the Niagara River there. They have, right near Rich Products, they have a park right there. I remember back in the day, we'd go there with fishing with the kids, and they have a nice little inlet there where people go kayaking. So I went walking over there. There was a ton of people out there, and some people doing a picnic, which is a bit early, I think, for what's required for the isolation in regards to COVID. But nonetheless, they have a path that walks way out there on the river. My wife was so excited. She's like, oh, I get to go walk out on there. But sadly, it was closed. But we did walk around the park, and that was fun. So you can do some walking, you can do some hiking, you get out on your bike. It's been nice out. It's nice out today. It'd be a good day for that. You could even, if you have grandkids, you could even, if you are seeing them, because I know some people are, just in small groups, you could bust out the water balloons. It was 70 degrees out. They would have fun running around your yard, beating each other up with that. We definitely did that a lot with our kids in the past. At this point in the program, I'd like to get into our speaking roles. Our first evaluator is Nancy Faery. Nancy Faery, are you there? Is Nancy here?
There we go. Okay.
There we are.
I am having intermittent trouble with my internet. So if I fade in and out, I'm sorry. Okay, I will be evaluating Jill Rohring. And today her speech is entitled Arbor Day, the Aftermath. And this is a second in a series. The last one was a shorter speech with us, giving us the skeleton of her ideas. And now the purpose of this project will be to put the, I guess, the meat and the skin on the bones so that we can have a better understanding of her Arbor Day project. And Jackie, her time is 5 to 7 minutes.
Oh, thank you, Nancy. Jill Rohring, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's roll it out. It's all you.
It's all me. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. I spoke about the Arbor Day celebration a couple months ago. Seems like forever. When I started this, I didn't think it was going to be totally smooth sailing. It was, whoa, mostly because of what we know happened in our world. The event was originally scheduled for May 2nd. A local resident decided to celebrate Earth Day along with Arbor Day and have a community cleanup starting at the state park. The other members of Celebrate Wilson decided that they felt it should be, ooh, my sound's getting weird. They felt we should coordinate. And so we did, and we moved it to April 25th. There was all kinds of publicity, for both events. We had ordered 200 trees. There was pre-orders for about 100. So we pushed the order up another 150. So we had 350 trees to sell. Everything was going great. Got the Arbor Day proclamation from the mayor at the village board meeting, which ironically was the first one they had after limits of 10, which was kind of a strange board meeting. But we didn't think things were getting ugly at that point. It was still in March. So we plugged along. The trees were going to come in. I kept getting an order here and there. April 24th, Steve and I picked up the trees. But before that, the state park thing got canceled. Obviously, people can't stand 6 feet apart from each other while they're picking up trash, but that's another story. And so we were kind of have a dilemma. What are we going to do with these trees? We can't do it at the state park like we planned. I was thinking at the time of trying to do it kind of low key and just doing it out of my yard here. We have a U-shaped driveway. People could just drive through and get the trees and leave. Talked it over with the mayor because he likes to be informed on this stuff. And he suggested, let's do it May 16th at the Martin Park, which is the one right behind the town hall. Okay, that'll work. I ran it through the rest of the committee. Everybody was fine with it. It ended up working out much better because the weather was a whole lot better on May 16th than it was April 25th. And then last Saturday, we had our tree event. By then, of the 350 trees, probably about 120 had already been picked up. So our numbers of trees were down considerably. We sold another 100 or so that day. We have to plant, as part of this project, we have to plant about 12 trees within the village, 10 or 12 trees within the village, mostly in the parks. So I had to save those out of the 350. Hopefully we had 6 varieties, so I saved 1 or 2 out of every variety. 2 of the varieties were actually sold out before the event. 3 people came and helped me work on the event. We all sat there in the hot blazing sun. I got a brutal sunburn, which was my own fault. And everything went really swimmingly well considering all the obstacles that took place in this whole thing. I have to say that I let other people make some decisions here. First off, with the changing it to April 25th, because originally we scheduled it for May 2nd so that we could do the Toastmasters conference. Obviously, that didn't happen either. And then the cancellation of April 25th to May 16th, which was pretty much what the mayor suggested. He was kind of happy with that date. I haven't talked to him since then, so he hasn't even asked how it went. I came home with about 120 trees the other day. I am down to about 40. Our tree population is going to be enhanced here in Wilson by 350 trees. I think that's a success. But as far as this whole project goes, in the words of Mick Jagger, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometime, you just might find that you get what you need. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Our second evaluator for today is Margo Bittner, and you will be evaluating Saamir. Margo, are you ready?
I certainly am. Good morning. I hope I can do this morning. My husband's a diurnal one, and the alarm went off at 5 o'clock this morning so that he could move bees. Who knew? Saamir this morning is in the leadership pathway. There's an for you, Mr. Master. His leadership style is what he'd like to share, what he's learned for it, and his time, Mr. Timer, is a 5 to 7 minute, Madam Timer, 5 to 7. Do you have his title?
I do.
Okay, I will turn it over to you to introduce Saamir with the title then. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Margo. Saamir's title today is The Benefits of a Balanced Leadership Style. Saamir, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. For my project today, I had to review the different leadership styles provided by the Toastmasters pathway and understand which ones I am best at, which ones are my strengths, and which ones I'm less great at. The first one that I scored with was actually a tie. It was authoritative and innovative. The main styles are authoritative, innovative, democratic, altruistic, pace-setting, bureaucratic, coaching, and affiliative. Now, I know everyone hasn't actually done this pathway, so I will review them for you and discuss some of the various advantages and disadvantages of each, as well as provide some anecdotes about how I've experienced them in my life. The authoritative is more of a follow-me approach. It's quick and avoids rankling too many people's feathers, but not micromanaging or providing any explicit guidance. It's more along the lines of developing a vision and aligning the team members to achieve a goal from understanding, through a firm understanding and reasonable team input. This is one I've practiced several times in my life, as often I've researched topics to an extent that allows me to provide some level of authority on that subject. The next is innovative. Innovative is more of a what if we can do this type of creative solution generated collaboratively, often for complex problems that require visionary leadership to guide them through uncertainty and risk. Many teams face myriad problems daily that require every kind of team skill under the sun. And so this is an important feature that we value in our society, particularly in America, that other cultures find difficult to replicate. It epitomizes the entrepreneurial spirit and is an excellent way to prove yourself a leader. I've often found that innovative solutions require thinking outside the box, of course, to use a cliche, but there are a lot of ways in which connecting disparate ideas can create value for a lot of different people. The next is the democratic mode, which is more of a what do you think, focused on consensus decision-making and total inclusive participation, allowing individuals to take the lead at different times, and it's most successful for activating the entire knowledge of the group to solve problems. One of the pitfalls of it, though, is when people don't have the requisite expertise, this democratic process of leadership can result in suboptimal solutions or even team failure, which is an unfortunate circumstance and hopefully not reflective of democracy as a whole. The altruistic leadership style is what's the best possible outcome for all of us. It focuses on the individual needs of the team in an ethical and empowering way, creating a community that can generate long-term solutions. This is great for boosting morale and helping people in their day-to-day lives enjoy what they're doing, but oftentimes it meets against short-term pressures and is not quite what people are motivated by in the real world. The next is the pace-setting leadership style, which is do as I do. It leads by example, focused primarily on productivity and setting a standard of performance for the team to meet. It's best for high-skill teams, but it depends upon the pace because this can result in burnout. I'm sure something many of us have read about frequently over the past few decades, especially over long periods of time. I personally have found pace setting to be an effective technique, but it does require diurnal meetings to enable people to stay on task and understand the pace that the entire team is going at, so that way everyone's efforts feed into each other properly. The bureaucratic mode is do exactly what I say. In other literature, it's sometimes called authoritarian, but it's useful for explicit short-term goals, oftentimes in a management role or a production setting, where it's necessary to ensure both safety and compliance, as well as instances in which it's actually useful to guide people because they need that kind of authority and they don't want it to be as collaborative or to have the possible option of input. The next leadership style is coaching. That's more of a consider this approach, which seeks to unlock people's potential through skill building, challenging individuals to fulfill their potential. And it's best in one-on-one settings where there's a positive culture and you can invite people to sort of create change as well as bring along those who are resistant to change. If there's a lot of resistance to change or old ways of thinking, coaching may be a tough one and possibly ripe for failure. The leadership style that I was least, I guess, skilled in or had the least affinity to was the affiliative, which is people come first. It's motivating the team cohesion and harmony, but it's also often very good for a secondary leader, not necessarily the primary leader, to boost morale and mitigate the stress of actually achieving the goals. In my personal experience, I've definitely had a lot of times where being authoritative and innovative have been helpful, but a lack of coaching or affiliative awareness of these other leadership styles, which were really news to me because of course you want to consider people, but in my world as an engineer, it's always been results come first. But in the reality of most organizations and teams, you need people to work together very well. While I was in college, I actually used the authoritative and the democratic styles to get a student group that I was a leader of to see my way of thinking. I used my authority to corral everyone to a democratic vote, and then of course use the democratic leadership style to have that vote. Unfortunately, I was not coaching or affiliative at all, and that ended up alienating some of the members. So while I may have gotten my way in the short term, in the long term, stronger people who may have been stronger parts of the group for later goals that we had ended up leaving. So really, my personal experience, and I think just going through these different leadership styles shows that there are many ways in which people can be leaders, but really a balanced approach at different times is what's necessary for success. Specifically, people respond at different times to different things. And so maybe you need to evaluate somebody at that day or that time to see whether or not which leadership style would be best applicable to them. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters.
Thank you, Saamir. I've been told by our general evaluator and host that we have a guest from Kenya. Would you like to say hello, our guest from Kenya?
Yes, hi, how are you? I don't know if it's afternoon or evening there, but it's afternoon here. My name is Roslyn Wambui Kabata. I'm Kenyan, I'm a lawyer. I work for the judiciary, and I'm glad to be here.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's my first time joining a Toastmasters meeting. I've always wanted to be part of it here in Kenya, but I don't know, I've never attended a meeting, so I'm glad that I've started with the American one.
Oh, we're honored to have you here and be the first meeting for you.
Yeah.
I've actually been to Kenya. I went to Nairobi and did a bunch of safaris over there. So Kilimanjaro, back in the day. I was much younger, but I loved it. So,
It's 5 to 8 a.m. Tell her. Tell our guest it's 5 to 8 a.m.
Yes, it's 5 to 8 in the morning here.
Hence the name of the club.
That's
okay.
Okay.
Dr. Gerald, I believe we have another guest joining us also. It's Rosemary Sanchez.
Rosemary, would you like to say hello?
And let me unmute Rosemary. We will come back to Rosemary.
That's fine. Thank you, Larry. Well, let's continue on with the meeting. Our third evaluator today, stepping up to the plate, is Phil Russell. He's going to evaluate Marty. Phil, would you like to talk about his speech today?
Phil, we can't hear you.
Unmuted myself. Aiding during COVID-19 is Marty's speech today. He is speaking out of the legacy journal, The Humorously Speaking. And this is his third speech, number 3, Make Them Laugh. And Marty is going to be, his objectives are, prepare a speech that opens and closes with humorous stories. Include jokes in the speech body to illustrate points or maintain audience interest. Deliver the jokes and stories smoothly and efficiently. This is from the Legacy Project, which I believe should be one of the paths. I think that getting rid of it totally, because I believe this brings in more creativity than the pathways, in my opinion. So, but Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guests, and welcome from all across the world. That's great. And the time, Madam Timer, is 5 to 7 minutes. You have his title, Mr. Toastmaster.
But we can go ahead and turn it over to Marty. Thank you, Phil.
Was I muted?
You were a little bit. It's okay.
Oh,
you're good, Phil. We had you going, man.
It's no big deal. So
Gerald,
Marty's title today is Dating During COVID-19. Marty, you're up.
Some of you might wonder, why is Marty talking about dating during COVID-19? What is he, crazy? Fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Toastmaster, most welcome guests. This morning I would like to share a couple personal stories and personal experiences with you about dating during COVID-19. Yes, dated during COVID-19. Where did this all start? Some of you might ask. I'll give you one hint. It happened at work, at Tops. It happened in the toilet paper aisle of all places. Many of you know that people were hoarding toilet paper in the month of March because they thought that the demand was going to wipe out the supply, and it temporarily did. However, I joined in a conversation with a female customer, and we shared some different funny stories about the whole situation. And one thing led to another. And then the next thing I found out, we'd made a date where we're going to go. The restaurants are all closed. Movie theaters are closed. Drive-ins closed. What are you going to do? Especially when you're donning a mask. What are you going to do? Well, lucky for me, there's a Tim Hortons where I work, and the woman, Mary, just happened to live down the street. So we walked into Tim Hortons, and that was our first date. South Buffalo, Seneca Street. I must have done something right. I don't know if I was standing 6 feet away, or I was following the right protocols. I don't know what it was, because the date lasted for the whole cup of coffee. The second date was in beautiful Cazenovia Park in South Buffalo. We took a diurnal walk through the park. And if any of you don't know Cazenovia Park, it's beautifully landscaped with trees surrounding the whole park. There's a body of water that runs through the park. There are a couple bridges. Then Mary and I went for a walk around the park. It takes about 15 or 20 minutes. It was a splendid day. It was a beautiful day. I must say that we brought her 2 dogs along with us. I was hoping to get some points during this date, some brownie points, if you will, because when one of the dogs pooped, Mary didn't have a poop bag, but guess what? The Boy Scout, not the Eagle Scout, the Boy Scout, Marty, had a bag. I think it was a potato chip bag or something in my coat. So I bent down and I scooped up the poop, thinking, oh boy, what am I doing this for? I found the nearest garbage can and dumped the poop in, hoping to get some points on this date. Well, as it ended up, as we walked around the park, Mary started talking about, building the relationship, asked about activities and interests and opinions. And I asked the same. I asked, what are her activities that she likes to do besides walking, her interest, activities, and opinions? We started bonding a little bit. And during the walk, she mentioned something about marriage. And I told her, I'm divorced. And she said, well, I've been divorced twice. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what am I getting into? What am I getting into, dear Lord? I think the mask saved me, because I don't think I said yes to anything that she said. Moving on, the third date was at her home in South Buffalo. It was an afternoon of gardening. My green thumb pulled through, as always, thank God. And afterwards we had dinner. It was delicious. It was beans and rice and beans, beans and rice, and it was delicious. Again, I was hoping to get some more points, some brownie points, by helping. Actually, I did the dishes. I think she was quite impressed with that. However, I must say that we both realized that me traveling to South Buffalo and her trying to come to Lockport, both of us working full time, we realized there were some time constraints. And yes, definitely, during COVID-19, dating is definitely challenging during COVID-19, especially with all the protocol, the social distance of 6 feet, the wearing of the masks, among other things. It was very challenging. A couple days went by and I received a text. I said, oh, maybe I have another date. Maybe this is date number 4. And it read, "Dear Marty, I think we should stop seeing each other." No problem. No problem. I think I got into it over my head to begin with. So this was okay for me. I accepted it. I accepted the message. Fellow Toastmasters, sometimes in life, we go out on a limb. Sometimes the limb breaks. And when the limb breaks, we realize the learning experience. I learned to accept others, Maybe ask some questions before you go out on a date. Ask about some things before you go out on a date. Practice social distancing, obviously. And understand that these are good opportunities for people to learn and grow. And sometimes when you go out on a limb, the limb breaks, especially during COVID-19. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Marty. So at this point, can I get a timers report for our speakers today? Jackie.
Yes, you may. Jill came in at 5:49, Saamir at 7 minutes 13 seconds, and Marty at 6 minutes 9 seconds. So everyone qualified by time.
Thank you, Jackie. So Larry will put up a vote for all 3 speakers and take a second to do that. So what else can you do, being that spring has sprung? Well, you can definitely do quite a few things. I've seen on Facebook, one of our members, Jessica, used to be one of our members, she does a lot of chalk drawings. So she's been doing a lot of that. So you can do that with your kids. You can do some hopscotch, make that on the pavement. You can blow bubbles, chase those around. You have some grandkids, you can do that. You can actually sit on your porch or even in a park and have a cup of coffee. That is relaxing. You can watch a sunset. So there are things you can do still, even though we're social isolating, and relax and have some fun. I'd like to have our evaluator step up at this point in the meeting. Our first evaluator, Nancy Faery, are you ready? Nancy, are you still there?
I'm trying.
Sorry.
Thank you, Jill, for what a great endeavor in changing the world around us, and a great speech. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, it's a privilege to evaluate Jill. I don't see you on the screen, but that's okay. I missed several chunks because my internet was unstable, and I'm glad it didn't say I'm unstable. This is a good thing. Jill, you were very well prepared in your speech and also your project. It sounds like you had all your ducks lined up, you had planned perfectly, and then boom, plan B happened. The background, you put up a background. It was a little kind of crunchy place, but that's okay. We can get over that. But you had a background set up, and you built the bones last speech. This speech, you put the flesh on it quite well. I noticed the flexibility in your entire project. Sharing the decision-making was very evident. They were both amazing. Some suggestions for the future. You did speak like you were telling a story, which is one of your assets. It's a gift to be able to tell a story. In this case, it almost felt like a roller coaster of emotions. You get us there, oh my gosh, then what happened? Oh no, okay. And I felt like I was sitting waiting for the next thing. Maybe a more effective way could have been like the sandwich approach that we use for evaluations. What went well, what went wrong, and then what went well again. Because it was just kind of a little bit of what went well, what went wrong. Well, it took me in weird places. I don't know about anybody else. Maybe even the title could have been changed to something like Plan A, B, C, D, something like that to catch our attention. You did a great job expressing your emotions about the turn of events. You engaged the audience's attention with the real adventure of something not going as expected, but turning out well in the end. Great quote at the end, the Rolling Stone quote, "You can't always get what you want." That would have been enough. You didn't need to say thank you. We are grateful to have you give our speech, and we should be thanking you. And that is my wrap up on your speech. Great job. Thank you for sharing your Arbor Day adventure with us, Ms. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Nancy. Our second evaluator, Margo Bittner, you are up.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, especially Saamir. Saamir, you set the stage perfectly today. You explained what this project was. There are so many paths and pathways that we're not familiar with them all, and you made sure we knew what you were doing. And then you jumped right into it. You were authoritative and innovative. You defined, this is what I am, and you took it a step further. As you're laying that groundwork, you said, do you know what all the styles are? And you define them one by one. I love that. You had a lot of attributes in your speaking today. Your vocabulary, as always, was wonderful. Your visual pictures painted such dramatic things for us. You were very, very well organized. And I love how you took us from the overall project to your personal style to where we can go in the future and how we can use the information. You have matured as a speaker, Saamir, and I really enjoyed it. You slowed down your pace from past evaluations that I've done for you. You were very individual in what this speech meant to you. I loved your self-analysis and your openness in it. However, there are some things you could possibly do to improve. To make it a little more visually interesting, what if you took each style and held it up like Jackie does with the colored cards? I'm talking about the authoritative style to help us get a visual to go with the auditory. I think that would have helped me keep track of all the different styles, because if I recall correctly, there were about 7 different styles in there. And unusual for you today, Saamir, you had quite a few ahs and ums. So I don't know if you had notes in front of you, but you may want to have a little list and just highlight main words to get you to that main paragraph. So let me review what I just said. You set the stage well. You were very authoritative, and so you demonstrated one of your leadership styles. You had a lot of attributes. You've matured, and I gave you some hints for improvement. And with the review, that puts it together as Saamir, the whole package. Thank you for everything that I learned this morning, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Margo. Our third evaluator, Phil Russell. Are you ready, sir?
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, our guests, I'm still learning this technology. Marty, speaking from the Humorously Speaking Make Them Laugh manual, and it's a legacy program going back. There are, in Pathways, Humorously Speaking pathways. Now, did Marty meet his objectives? I believe so. Now, the idea is to make them laugh. This was not a belly laugh. I've watched Marty from the very beginning, and I have seen him grow tremendously. And he's done that. I think he's progressed from point A to point B so far. It's been great. And so I really enjoyed this. Dating during COVID-19, I did not know what to expect. Now, his objective was to have 2 stories at the beginning and at the end, tying the whole speech together. He accomplished that. It wasn't you weren't uproariously laughing. However, it was humorous because it is a challenge. And Marty took us through. He didn't, they say to have jokes. Well, it didn't really tend to jokes, but to all of us, dating during COVID-19 has to be a little bit humorous because of the things. And pulling in his work where he works, yeah, the toilet paper aisle. That is sort of humorous. Then at the end, taking a nice walk through Delaware Park, which is a beautiful place, and then getting the text. And as Seinfeld always says, you do not break up on a text. So it brought those things to light to me. I thought it was humorous. Marty has come so far. He's pulled this whole thing together. I watched him doing this stuff from about his work. at tops, and the humorous speaking with the tying in the face mask, doing that was great. So Marty, I think you've accomplished a great deal. My favorite story though was poop picking up, because walking two dogs numerous times a day, it's a challenge, and you always have to have a poop bag with you. So being the good Boy Scout you are, you made it, and you were perfect on time. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Phil. Madam Timer, can I have a report on our evaluators?
Yes, sir. Nancy came in at 252, Margo at 214, and Phil at 235. So all of them qualify.
Thank you. And our President, Larry McKenzie, will put up a vote for us. And take a second to vote, please. Okay, so how many other types of things can we do for entertainment now that spring has sprung? Well, I bet since the car washes are closed, you probably could wash your car. That is something that could be done. Some people might find that fun. My kids always found it fun. They'd spray each other with a hose and have a good time. So maybe you could occupy your kids, have them do that for you. You could paint some rocks. I know that sounds like a stretch, but we walked around different parks and we found these rocks, and they had little messages on them, and they were kind of cool, little art projects for the kids. And you can go leave them for people. You could build a fort with the kids, maybe have some diurnal activities in regards to the fort. Stay up late, have a campfire. I've done that on the outside as a kid, and I've also done them on the inside with my kids. So that's good times. And I know we have some voracious readers out there. Get out, sit in a chair, maybe a lawn chair, bust the book out, get some rays. That's good for your health. And you can read and maybe even learn something. At this point in the meeting, I would like to start to get some reports from our job holders today. We'll start with the grammarian, Tracy Farrell. Are you ready, Tracy?
I am. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. We started off, Gerald, I can't figure out, you're such a diurnal person. I don't know how you have time to get everything that you do in your life with gardening and traveling with your kids and visiting all the beer places plus work. I'm pretty impressed. I did notice on your opening slide, it was kind of interesting because the pictures say 1,000 words, and it was entitled Spring Has Sprung, but we had a picture of a waterfalls flowing down, which kind of took me off guard a little bit. It was a beautiful picture. We were also a little bit lax in a lot of our wording today. I noticed that Larry McKenzie, I'm going to answer your report instead of I will report back. You don't answer to a report. Dave Licata said, several times, but he did have an excellent word, his objector, which I thought was interesting, a great word. Jill was also relaxed, and she said it was like, whoa, and we got the proclamation, and the state park thing got canceled. We could be a little bit more precise in our wording. The state park event was canceled, but she ended it well when she said swimmingly well. I thought that was a great use of her vocabulary. Saamir, you were excellent in your vocabulary. You corralled your group. Marty ended with a splendid day. Nancy used the word endeavor, which is one of my favorite words. So I think that's just about everything, but I think the meeting was interesting. Sometimes we're a little bit lax in our vocabulary, and sometimes we have some really great uses of vocabulary words.
Thank you, Tracy. Our gesture masters, Sylvia Baptiste. How did we do with our gestures today?
I was quite surprised. There was quite a bit of gestures going on today. The speakers, not as many. We had Jill do the hands up and down roller coaster thing. And Phil used his, as evaluator, used his as tying in. And then I see Marty Johnson, he was the winner today with all the hand gestures, with the mask putting up and down, using his hands to describe the park, gave us more visual, doing dishes. Dave, when he did his little speech with the phone, he did a phone thing. And then also Marty pulling his phone out to read the text, used that as a prop. Len put his thumbs up with the bonfire. He likes that, you could tell. And it was really nice. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Sylvia. So we're going to see if we have paid attention today and used our listening skills. Alexis, as our quizmaster, can you give us a few questions?
Yeah. What toy did Dave Licata get for Mrs. Licata?
A drone.
How many trees were for sale at Jill's Arbor Day event?
350.
350.
350.
A lot of them.
A lot. What two leadership styles did Saamir say he tied for?
Authoritative.
And innovative. Authoritative and innovative.
Yeah. What career does our guest, Rosalind from Kenya, have?
She's an attorney.
Attorney.
Who accompanied Marty and Mary's second date?
Dogs.
Two dogs.
Doggies.
And during Phil's evaluation of Marty's speech, what did he say was his favorite part?
Scooping the poop.
Good.
That's it. Thank you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Alexis. Len, are you ready with your Master's report?
I am indeed. The word of the day, Mr. Toastmaster, was and. Everyone was stretching and filling in superfluous and to connect their thoughts. That being said, I also counted all the ahs and ums. Alexis had 2, Steve had 1, Tom was greater than 5, and he threw in a so to boot. Muklas was clean. Ishmael had 2, Glenn had 1. Nancy, you were greater than 5 as well. Jill had a couple of so's. Margo had 1, which she caught herself, as well as a so. Saamir just had 1 that I heard. Phil was clean. Tracy had 1, and Sylvia broke 5 with hers. So work on those filler words, and especially the and. Silence is not the enemy. Just pause and continue. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Len.
Good job, buddy.
And our last but certainly not least report, our word master. How did the word do for the rest of the meeting, Jen?
Well, it did get better after table topics, so I appreciate that you all took my warning there as an increase use of the word. So I heard Steve, Dave, Tom use it. I also heard Gerald use it on multiple occasions, Saamir, Tracy, and Margo. So don't forget to use diurnal throughout your day today and in the coming years.
Why not? We can use it as any way we can enhance our vocabulary is a good thing. Thank you, Jen. One more report. Our general evaluator, Larry. I did not forget you. Fear not.
Thank you, Dr. Gerald. This morning, as your general evaluator, I would first off like to thank Gerald for toasting. There's another for our master. Our diurnal meeting this morning, because it is definitely worth getting up for. And we had with us this morning, 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 4 guests from all over the world joining us today, and we want to welcome and thank them for being with us. The theme of the day was phenomenal, Dr. Gerald. I will call upon our guests to say a few words in just a couple of moments. But before I do that, my role as general evaluator was to evaluate the general tone of the meeting. I thought the meeting flowed very nicely. We are all still trying to engage with the virtual aspect. The virtual meetings are something that I don't believe is going to ever go away. It's basically, they are going to become the norm as part of our new norm with some of the different fields, not only with Toastmasters and other groups, but also with a lot of business. One of the things that as AM Lockport Toastmasters has done, we've embraced the new technology, and I want to thank all of our members for giving that an opportunity. With that being said, our evaluators this morning all did quite a nice job. Nancy, Margo, and Phil, embracing the new technology and also recognizing some of the things that our speakers did that enhanced or helped their speeches with using the new technology. Matter of fact, Nancy mentioned how Jill had used a cover to cover her backdrop there with the green background. And whenever you're giving a speech, one of the things, especially virtually, what we want to do is we want to make sure that there's no distractions. When you have a very busy background, say you have a refrigerator or something in your background, and people are listening to your speech, they might be sitting there saying, I wonder what's in the refrigerator, or I wonder if there's any ho-hos in that cupboard. And it distracts us from the speaker, and we want to focus all of our attention on the speaker. One of the nice things that we do have the ability to do virtually is when our speakers are speaking, we have the ability to actually see them face to face, where in our regular meetings at Tom's Diner, where we meet non-virtually, we don't have that opportunity because a lot of times we have our backs to our speakers and we're looking over somebody else to see them. With that, Nancy hit on some great points for Jill. She gave her some great pointers, some positives about the quote. She also helped her in regards to the closing, and I agree with her in regards to the closing. With could have ended right with the quote. With that, Jill, good vocal variety within your speech, and you also gave a very good speech where the fact is you use the camera as your audience, and that's one of the toughest things when you're giving a speech is, even if you're using notes, is to make sure that you are focusing on the camera because that is your audience and we want to be able to be part of that. Margo, with Saamir, I thought you hit on all of the wonderful points that Saamir has improved on. One of the things that I noticed and you mentioned was that he slowed his pace down. And I thought that was phenomenal. Saamir, that was probably one of the better speeches that I've heard over the time because of the fact that your cadence all the way through was excellent. And one of the things that I would touch on with doing the virtual, as far as a virtual speech, is be aware of your background. Because if you're using a virtual background, obviously you want to make sure that the lighting is proper within the room for that, because you could wash out into, if you notice different ways that you would move, you would wash out into your background. Your lighting also, try to have some lighting so that you're lit from in front of you. So right by your camera so that your face is better lit so that we're able to see you a lot better within the context of when you're giving your speech. Phil, I agree with you. Marty, I've watched you over the years give many, many speeches in person, and now I've also watched quite a few speeches virtually. And I must say that this was one of your better speeches that I have seen you give virtually. You also attempted to stand up during your speech today. One of the things that Marty and I had discussed was in regards to doing a speech standing up. And one of the things that we should work on is that if you're doing a speech and you're standing up, make sure that your camera is at almost eye level. And that gives us an opportunity to look, whereas Marty, I know you're not 7'6", but in some respect, you look to be a very tall person in your speech today. So that is something that we could all work on also. I loved your humor in that also, Marty, which Phil hit on. All in all, I think it was a wonderful meeting and a great word of the day. Thank you to all of our evaluators, our speakers, and our table topics. And before we go on to our reports this morning, as far as our winners of the day, I would like to invite our guests that are with us still. I would like to invite Rosaline from Kenya. How did you enjoy our meeting this morning? And do you have any words that you would like to share with us?
I was actually about to leave. I've just sent a message. I've enjoyed the meeting today. This is, as I said, my first meeting. And oh, I'm not supposed to use the
You're
but
forgiven.
that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, so that I can learn how to communicate without using the arms. There's a lot I've learned about how to communicate that I should be very conscious about it. That's something I've learned from this group. And you're very organized, I can say. There are different aspects of communications that I've learned are involved while talking. Like someone described someone was using the gestures with their hands. That's not something I think about a lot when I speak. So I'll be more conscious about my communication, but I hope I'm going to join you in subsequent meetings because I would really like to learn how to communicate, especially because of my profession. And I'm an introvert, so.
I have a question for the guest.
Yes.
Can you ship me a 100-pound bag of Kenyan AA coffee beans, please? Kenyan AA's are outstanding coffee beans. They are amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if they're shipping right now though, because of the virus.
They're customs.
Thank you for joining us this morning. You are always welcome at any of our meetings.
Thank you.
We also have Glenn with us this morning. Glenn, would you like to share a few words with the group and how you enjoyed our meeting?
If you did.
If you did, that is, yes.
Yes, I thoroughly. Did I just get muted?
No, you're good.
Okay. Thoroughly enjoyed the meeting. One of the things that I'm doing is a bucket list because it was a week ago. We had someone who joined us from Rhode Island. He says, I'm visiting every state that has a Zoom Toastmasters meeting. So I decided to do that and include the District of Columbia. So you are the 17th club I visited. So I got 33 more to go. Enjoyed it. Very good evaluations. One of the things that I thought was fascinating was the way that you guys are very supportive of each other, which is great. And for those of you that are new to the evaluation process, all I can say is remember the DEM process: deliver a speech, evaluate a speech, modify a speech. And that's extremely important because if you ever take a look at your professional speakers, they have 21 speech titles and 3 speeches. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Glenn, and we appreciate you being with us this morning. Matter of fact, I actually saw the same gentleman that you were referring to, who has been meeting with almost every district, and I don't know if it's the same person, but he has attended, I believe, something like 40-some meetings where he has also been either a speaker or an evaluator, and he's volunteered for roles. And our district is one that he has not been to yet, and I did invite him, and he said it was a little early in the morning for him. But thank you for joining us. Our motto from our club is worth getting up for, and I believe that today that was shown by all of our members. Now let's give away our ribbons, our ribbon winners for today. Drum roll, please. Our winners for today, here we go. Our winner for Table Topics, Dave Licata. Dave,
Thank you very much.
you can do your acceptance speech at another time. And our evaluator today, our top evaluator, was a very close race. It was a three-way race. And coming on strong at the finish, Phil was our winner for top evaluator this morning. Congratulations, Phil.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. And our top speaker of the day, our top speaker of the day was, with his humorous speech, Marty. Congratulations, Marty, top speaker of the day. Now, one of the things I would like to comment on this morning is we're all trying to get Steve beards. It's one of the things that we've been attempting, as I saw some of our other members also have got their COVID beards on. And let me see who I have on here. I have Charlie also has his beard going on here, or his goatee. We have, let me see who else. Steve also. We have Mark, who has grown his little beard going on here. Dave is well shaven. I see Tom also shaved. Phil Russell's got a little snubs going on there. So also
That's my 70s look.
And I believe when we do have our meeting again back at Tom's, when we ever show up back there, what we will do is have to compare our beards. I saw my granddaughters yesterday and they said, "Oh, is Christmas coming, Papa?" Well, are there any announcements before we close our meeting this morning?
I'd just like to ask Jill, would you send me your email so that I can give you a written evaluation?
Will do.
Thank you. Put it in the chat. If you can.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great way. I did that with Marty already. I took his evaluation form, I texted to him, and I emailed it in case he can't print from the text, but he can print it from the email if he has the capabilities. If not, he can save it and print it some other time.
Okay.
But
Didn't he get enough bad news via text?
Well, thank you also to our speakers and our evaluators this morning. I know, Phil, you jumped in a little late into the scene, and for communicating back and forth, which made our evaluations and our speeches run smoothly, and also for helping Dr. Gerald. I know there was a fight for some of the roles, and that was excellent. I hope we see that every week. Who is our Toastmaster for next week? Do we know that right now, Madam Jackie? Let me unmute you. Jackie?
Oh.
Yes, there you are.
There we go.
Who is our
I'm
you're the Toastmaster.
I'm the Toastmaster next week. Alexis, Gerald, and Steve Smith are speakers. I'll be in touch.
Now, Alexis, will that be your icebreaker speech?
Yes.
All right. If you do need help during the week with planning and putting together your icebreaker, please reach out to anyone in the club. Myself. Do you have a mentor or someone who's been working with you at all?
Do I?
Yes. Oh, okay. You don't. All right. So,
I'm not sure. Yeah.
All right. If you would like some help
people,
with your speech, just let us know between Jackie and myself, and we'll make sure that we either assign someone to help with that, or we'll help you with your speech if you need assistance with it.
Sure. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Okay. I am actually going to do two things right now. Please, after I do make the announcement, this evening at 7 p.m., we will be doing a social hour, which we do on Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. I did put the link in our group chat. One of the things that we should do every week, which we did not do this week as a general evaluator, I should have made note of, is that every time after one of our speakers has completed their speech for our Toastmasters, please take about 30 seconds to a minute and do a little filler in between, and give everyone an opportunity to send them a private message in chat and with a personal evaluation of their speech from each one of the people that are online with us. And I will have this uploaded to YouTube. We do have a AM Lockport personal YouTube channel, and that is strictly for the members only. It's a private YouTube channel. I will have the link for each one of the videos. I am uploading the other ones. I will have today's uploaded. If you would like that, just let me know. I have to share the link with you. That's the only way that you'll be able to view that. It's not a public viewing. If you wish to take part of your speech and cut that from there and make your own that you want to share, feel free to do so, but ours will only be available for the club. That way your privacy is there if in the event that you would like to do that also. I am officially going to close the meeting right now, but before I say closed, Jackie, we do have to have a slate of officers within 2 weeks. And I do believe Kate is working on putting together.
Right. Kate is working on that. She has a few names, but she would love to hear from anyone who has any interest at all in becoming an officer for the next term, which will begin on July 1st.
Fantastic. So if you have, or if you have served in the past or if you have not served in the past as one of our officers, please think about that, because the success of AM Lockport depends on all of us as a group. And as the leaders that take the role of, whether it be president, vice president, sergeant of arms, they all assist us with everything going on throughout our meetings. So we appreciate you if you could step up to do that, and you'll have the support of everybody within the club to help you make your job easy. If you're not sure of what those roles are, reach out to me or Jackie. We'll be happy to share those with you. The meeting is officially closed. We will do a little post-toasty after if you'd like to stay on. But if you have to go to work or meetings, or if you have somewhere to go, we thank you for joining us this morning. God bless. Have a great week, everyone. If you're joining us for social hour tonight, it's at 7 p.m. And we will stay on. Right now, the meeting is officially closed.